This time, look at some of the world's most ugly motorcycles. And before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Now beauty, they say, is in the eye of the beholder, and there's never a more fine example than this than the Wooler. With its strange banana-shaped oil-cum-fuel tank. They even painted the thing yellow on occasion, just to really emphasise the point. But the bike certainly isn't ugly. And about the later models, where they blended the light nacelle into the tank, have an elegance of their own. These machines were cleverly engineered and well put together. This was a small British company, and based purely on their ingenuity alone, I'd say they certainly don't belong on the list of ugly motorcycles. So let's move on and find something a little bit more hideous. Cushman, the American Curiosity. The Cushman Company started trading in 1903 in Nebraska before later moving to Georgia. During World War II, they produced a lightweight machine for use by airborne forces. And this machine, in one form or another, is still with us today. Production has continued since that time in a sort of on-off basis. And whilst these machines have never been produced in huge numbers, there's no doubt they are truly the machine of the individual. And after all, isn't that what motorcycling is supposed to be all about? Near a car, the Anglo-American Nightmare. An American car narrator designed this highly unusual machine in 1918. Amongst its many features was hub-centered steering. And in fact, for many years, the Nero car was the most successful hub-centered steering motorcycle ever built, until taken over by Yamaha in the 1990s. The unusual styling meant that this machine was destined only ever to be a modest success, with production totaling about 16,500 in the US and Great Britain. Morbidelli's monstrous V8. Morbidelli is a company with a history of Grand Prix success. So when they proposed building a V8 road-going machine, with the aid of Cosworth engineering, what could possibly go wrong? Well, it turned out quite a bit. This is a truly hideous motorcycle. I find it amazing that anybody signed off on this bog-eyed plastic fantastic monster. Eventually Morbidelli would redesign the beast, but that just left us with a very expensive and actually rather bland looking motorcycle. Pan America, the horrible Harley. So, cards on the table here. I'm not the greatest Harley Davidson fan, but sometimes they really do get a design right. They get the styling just perfect for the kind of bikes that they're building. They offer a truly beautiful piece of all America. And sometimes they even make brown work, but from time to time they can go full on Tart's handbag. But seriously, Harley, what in God's name were you thinking releasing this machine? It looks unfinished. It looks like an adventure bike that shagged a fridge. Now it looks kind of okay, but at least it doesn't until you get to that front end and that sort of headlamp nacelle thing. It's truly horrendous. Munch Mammoth, the Deutsche Monster. Munch began limited production of this machine in 1966. It's basically an NSU car engine shovelled into his purpose-built chassis. It's an engineering triumph, but for me, an absolute styling disaster. These machines were only ever produced in tiny numbers, so they command very high prices. And while some elements of the original machine actually work pretty well aesthetically, the 2000 replacement for its Cosworth engine just looks completely wrong. But then, that is after all just my opinion. And if you want to spend a fortune on a machine like the Mammoth, who am I to tell you what to buy? I'm not the style police after all, am I? Velocette LE, the very clever ugly duckling. Velocette is of course best known for its sporting singles, either an overhead cam, like this KTT model, or overhead valve form. They were extremely popular machines of their day, but the Goodman family, who owned and ran the company, were obsessed with the development of a machine for the everyman, and to that end in 1948 they introduced the LE. This innovative machine used a pull start, had a liquid-cooled flat twin side valve engine for quietness, and of course had enclosed bodywork to keep the rider clean and dry. And there lies the problem, that bodywork simply lacks style, and rather like the nearer car, their unconventional design limited sales. The Vogue, a more stylised two-stroke version, was a commercial failure. Next up is Ducati's cringe-worthy customers. Of course Ducati is best known for its achingly beautiful sports machines like the 916, but this has not stopped them flirting with the cruiser market. And for me the Diavel, built in 2015, simply doesn't work as a buy. I find its proportions quite unpleasant. Having said that, the later model, despite its slightly electric motorcycle appearance, looks an awful lot better than the original round headlamp bike. It, for me, is one of the most ugly motorcycles ever produced. And it has one of the most ugly arses that I have ever seen. But even this ugly machine is a raging beauty compared to Ducati's earlier attempts, because the Indiana of the 1980s is probably the most un-Ducati-like Ducati that has ever been created. MV600 GT, the terrible Turismo. No other machines have the Grand Prix racing heritage of MV Augusta, the company founded by Count Domenico Augusta. Bowing to pressure from within the company in the 1960s, he would create a road-going version of his four-cylinder race bikes. But to prevent the machine from being used as a racer, he would create the GT600. This gawkily styled shaft-drive machine was anything but the race machine that everybody had wanted. He would eventually create such a machine in the 750S, but by then the company was already in severe financial trouble. Greaves and their grievous styling. Greaves was one of those companies that built their bikes for go rather than show, because their machines, with that somewhat bizarre front end, really could move on sand or grit. These were great off-roaders. And even on-road, the suspension system worked very well. It just wasn't very attractive. The Aerial 3, because you're once, twice, 3 times as ugly. Just as today, Aerial have always been a company of innovators, from their Red Hunters to their Square 4s. They built machines that were highly unusual, very technically interesting and very capable. In the 50s they would replace the Square 4 with a range of two-stroke, parallel twin machines with innovative pressed steel frames. Their styling was highly unusual and, to be honest, is a little bit Marmitey. I personally like the designs, although I know there are many people out there that don't. But even their 4-cylinder 600cc 4-stroke machine with its twin headlamps has its admirers, unlike the Aerial 3, a bike so ugly that it killed Aerial and mortally wounded BSA. And finally the sidecar, because every cupboard has its skeletons. Perhaps best known for its bullet singles, Royal Enfield is one of the oldest companies in continuous production, and today they're having great success with their 650 parallel twins, Continental GT and the Interceptor. But you can't be around for 120 years without producing something really ugly, and for Royal Enfield it was the sidecar. Well, I hope you enjoyed my little video of monstrosities. Do look out in the future, because there will be a part 2, and who knows, maybe a part 3. and definitely one on scooters. There are some hideous scooters out there. So, don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.